In 1963, Gambino crime family mobster Neil Dellacroce was confronted and teased by members of the Irish mob. Let's check it out. I'm James Gladwish and welcome to OC Shorts, bringing you detailed historical snapshots of the American Mafia and other organised crime. Feel free to subscribe if you like that sort of thing. Today, we're going to take a quick look at the time Gambino mobster Neil Dellacroce was confronted and goaded by the Irish mob. In 1963, Aniello Neil Dellacroce was serving as a captain in the Gambino crime family. Members of Dellacroce's crew allegedly included the likes of Anthony Fat Andy Ruggiano, Carmine Charlie Wagons Fatico, his brother Donato Danny Wagons Fatico, Carmine Dellacroce, brother of Neil, Anthony Tony West Delutro, and his brother Cataldo Callegero Charlie West Delutro, amongst several others. Cataldo Charlie West Delutro was also known as Charlie the Animal. He was heavily involved in loan sharking and was known to be particularly vicious. In an FBI file, one informant would say of Charles Delutro, "Even though he has plenty of money," he said, "he has the reputation of being extremely money hungry." In 1963, an FBI informant told the authorities that Charles Delutro, along with his captain, Neil Dellacroce, took over the Jazzland nightclub situated at 225 West 50th Street. As one FBI file states, New York informants have advised that Charles Delutro continues to be a collector for other Shylocks and is associated with Aniello Dellacroce. New York sources recently advised that Delutro and Dellacroce took over the Jazzland, a night spot located at 225 West 50th Street, New York City. The owner of record is one Louis Altman. Altman allegedly borrowed money from Dellacroce and Delutro, and when he could not repay the loan, they took over the business, leaving Altman in the business merely as a figurehead. As we can see from the FBI file, the owner of Jazzland, Louis Altman, had borrowed money from Charles Delutro and Neil Dellacroce, and after failing in his repayment, Delutro and Dellacroce took over the club. Jazzland would be frequented regularly by Neil Dellacroce, and it was in this venue that Dellacroce was goaded by members of the Irish mob. In the summer of 1963, Neil Dellacroce was in Jazzland, sat with other mobsters, including two captains from the Genovese crime family. In the company of Dellacroce were the following: Cataldo Callegero Charlie West Delutro, as mentioned a soldier in Dellacroce's crew, Thomas Tommy Palmer Greco, a Genovese family captain. Greco had been a former member of Charlie Luciano's Lower East Side crew before Luciano's rise to power. Greco was now the captain of Luciano's former Lower East Side crew. And finally, Peter DeFeo, a Mulberry Street-based captain in the Genovese crime family. An informant advised the authorities about how the Irish mob then arrived at Jazzland. One FBI file states, NYT6 related that he recently attended Jazzland, a New York City nightclub that had been taken over by Aniello Dellacroce. He continued that members of the old West Side Irish mob, who were perturbed at not having been invited, proceeded to visit the party late at night. This group was intoxicated when they arrived at the club. The man who headed the group of Irish mobsters that entered Jazzland was Hugh Mulligan. Mulligan, a prominent Irish mobster, was connected with powerful Irish racketeer Eddie McGrath. McGrath was a dominant force on the West Side docks and had a good working relationship with both Italian and Jewish mobsters, including Genovese crime family captain Vincent Jimmy Blue Eyes Allo, as well as Charlie Luciano's close friend Meyer Lansky. Some sources state that whilst Eddie McGrath had good relationships with Italian and Jewish mobsters, Hughie Mulligan preferred to work with the Irish alone where possible. The FBI file continues. Hugh Mulligan, leader of this group on this occasion, proceeded to a table occupied by Dellacroce, Collegio Delutro, Thomas Greco, Peter DeFeo and others, and was heard to say, "You wops are the greatest." He then continued, "First you produce redacted name, then redacted name, and now the greatest tenor of them all, redacted name." Dellacroce and his group became highly incensed. However, Mulligan appeared to be too intoxicated to notice. As we can see, after approaching Dellacroce, Delutro, Greco and DeFeo, the drunken Hugh Mulligan then proceeded to goad the Italian gangsters. Mulligan states that the Italians had produced great singers. Another source states that the first name he listed was Enrico Caruso, a famous Italian tenor. The second redacted name is unknown. Finally, Mulligan says, "And now, the greatest tenor of them all, redacted name." It is believed that Hugh Mulligan said Joseph Valachi's name. Valachi had turned government informant, and in a couple of months was due to give his famous testimony on organised crime. Mulligan insinuating that Joe Valachi would be singing to the authorities. The file then states that Dellacroce and the other mobsters were angered by Mulligan's comment. The file then continues. Mulligan reached into his pocket and placed a roll of bills in the centre of the table and said, "I'll bet this roll that when they put that tenor Cargo on National Hookup for his solo, the FBI will back him up with an all-wop glee club." Dellacroce and his associates immediately departed from the club in a very agitated state. The FBI file shows that the inebriated Mulligan continued to tease Dellacroce and the other Italian mobsters by stating that when Cargo testifies, he will be backed up by an all-wop glee club. Cargo being Joseph Joe Cargo Valachi, and Mulligan may be saying that once Valachi testifies, a load more Italian mobsters will start singing to the authorities too. Instead of reacting violently towards Hugh Mulligan, Dellacroce, Delutro, Greco and DeFeo left the club rather than cause a scene. However, the informant has stated that the Italian mobsters were clearly agitated by Mulligan's comments. After this incident, nothing happened to Hughie Mulligan with regards to reprisals from the Italians. Mulligan would continue his criminal career and established a nationwide loan sharking and bookmaking operation. He would eventually be convicted of criminal contempt in October 1971 and sentenced to 3 years in prison, but released on bail pending appeal. He would die of natural causes in July 1973 while still out on bail. As for Neil Dellacroce, a few years after this 1963 incident, he would be promoted by Carlo Gambino to serve as his underboss, a position that Neil Dellacroce occupied for nearly 2 decades until he passed away in late 1985. Let me know your thoughts on this story in the comments below. I hope you found that interesting. Thanks for watching.